WKXA Radio, and he has been kind enough to grant me an interview. Chris, how you doing this morning?
Good, good.
So the first question I have for you is, would you please briefly describe your professional experience in the field of broadcast journalism?
Yes, I went to Bowling Green State University. I was a radio, TV, and film major. Then I worked at a couple radio stations around Northwest Ohio. Moved to North Carolina and was the news director at WLOE in Eden, North Carolina, the wonderful land of Eden. And then after that, I went over to Martinsville, Virginia, and did news there before I got a TV job actually at a small station in Reedsville, North Carolina, and did sports there for about a year before I'm originally from Norwalk, so I got the job offer up here in Findlay, and 25 years later, I'm still here doing sports and marketing.
That's fantastic. Okay, so how has your job changed as the media has changed over the years? So basically, you know how you said you've been working here for 25 years. So over the last 25 years, there's been tons of technological advances and just changes in how media is presented. How have you dealt with that?
I think that, well, the biggest change I would say in radio has been the sound tracking, so that instead of, like, when I first came here, we had somebody in the station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And now, after the morning shows, almost everything is recorded. So, a DJ can come in and do a 5-hour shift in less than an hour. It saves the company money. You don't have to pay somebody for an hour for 5 hours work. And then a lot of it is nationally syndicated shows then on a lot of stations, like after 6, 7 o'clock at night. So I would say that's, and of course, the influx of social media has become really huge, and streaming audio and that sort of thing. But I'd say that's been the biggest change.
And this is a follow-up question. Has the social media negatively affected the radio business or the media?
Oh, I don't know if I can say negative. I'm not that computer literate, but yeah, I think it just gives. Actually, it's probably helped a little because people can go online and maybe learn more about the air personalities and all the contests that you can enhance your station with from social media.
And I think that's definitely a great way to put it. It's like, especially with radio, you don't really know the person talking. It's kind of this mystery to radio. It's like you hear the voice, but you can't put a face to it. So with social media, you can then get to know the people you're listening to. So I like that answer a lot. So what are some ways that you use the new forms of media in your career?
Well, like, say, Facebook, maybe I might put out there, like, we've maybe on the coach's show, we've got a big interview coming up with somebody, national prominence or something, we could do that. Or if there's a big game coming up that we're going to broadcast, that's just another way to get the word out for people that might, not listen to the station all the time, but you're friends with them on Facebook or something, or they're friends with the station. So that's one way to use it.
Absolutely. So then, while you're doing those things, while you're putting the stuff on social media and networking your content, basically, what concerns do you have, if any, about privacy in the media?
That's a good question. I don't know so much about that, but sometimes I've found you have to be kind of careful with who you friend with on Facebook. Like at first, like anybody that would send a friend request, I just figured they were a listener, so you accept it. But then some strange things have occurred, or they were a little overzealous, even in little town of Findlay. So I would say that's one thing that I'm a little, less likely to just click accept if someone sends a friend request.
So your screening process has gotten a little bit more tight. Okay. What are your thoughts on cultural and minority representation in the media, and how it has changed, how has it changed over the years, and how does it need to still change in the future? So, I don't know. I guess an example, just well,
like minority hiring or something.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Culture. Yeah.
I would say in small town radio, it's not very good. But I don't know. Like how many minorities are seeking jobs in small town radio. I mean, and I know that. I guess there's not a large minority population in Findlay, so maybe that's why it hasn't been that big in Findlay. But I would say there's definitely work to be done there.
Would you say that small town media is maybe a bit of a off-putting setting for?
What's that?
Is small town media an off-putting? I don't know. Would what's the word? I don't know. The environment of small town media. Do you think that would scare off minorities or culturally diverse people? Would that be something that would be intimidating for them versus big time media? In your opinion,
I don't know. I think there's a lot more of it in big time media. Like if you have Sirius Radio or something, and you're tuning into the sports channels and stuff like that. It's a lot more. There's a lot better representation, and I don't know if it's that in small towns, if it's that they're not being hired or they're not seeking the jobs in small towns. I don't really have an answer for you there.
Okay, so then I guess I need your professional opinion. What recommendations do you have for communication students like myself about maintaining professionalism in social media? So how do we keep our page clean, I guess?
In social media?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, you have to, I guess, mature is one way to put it. You don't want to, like the language that you use on there, and if maybe a bunch of childish, like, videos, YouTube, stuff like that. Although in radio, it's got sometimes a little bit off the wall, so you maybe want a little bit of that, but I would just say you just have to keep it clean.
Okay, and then what professional standards and skills do I need to be successful in sports broadcasting? I'm not necessarily going to go into the radio, but I do plan to go into sports journalism, sports broadcasting in some area. So what would you say are the skills that you need to be successful in this?
The biggest thing I would say is preparation. There's nothing that bothers me more if someone shows up to do a game and doesn't know anything about, either team or any of the players. So definitely I would say whether that just be, writing down stats or maybe talking to the coaches, a few of the players prior to the game, but you should definitely have some knowledge of who's playing and that sort of thing. So definitely come prepared. And, the advice I always give the young guys getting into radio is you have to be prepared to do anything. Because a lot of times, you may get a call, hey, we need someone to come in and just run a board or something. And you just have to get in, and the more you do something like that, oh, bless you, and again,
Excuse
you're allergic to radio.
I guess so.
But, you just have to be willing to do whatever's asked of you, to get your foot in the door. And those are the types of people that the people that are already in radio are going to appreciate and, more likely to want to keep you around if they know you're somebody they can count on.
Okay, and that is actually all the questions I had. That was great. Thank you.
That's it?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
Quick and painless. So once again, thank you, Chris Miller, for taking the time out of your day to do this interview. You helped me out a bunch. So
it was